What if trees could whisper the secrets of the past? What if they could warn us before disaster strikes? In one forgotten African village, one sacred tree did exactly that. Tell me in the comments, if a tree could speak, what wisdom do you think it would share? Stay with me, because what happens next will change how you see trees forever. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and crimson, as the village of Ndemu gathered around the sacred fire. A hush fell over the crowd as an elderly griot, draped in a flowing kente robe, stepped forward. His staff, carved with ancient symbols, tapped against the earth. The rhythmic strumming of his kora echoed through the night. Tonight, I tell you a story older than time itself, he said, eyes glistening with wisdom. The children leaned in. The elders nodded solemnly. Listen closely, for the Whispering Baobab has a secret to reveal. Nestled between rolling hills and golden plains, the village of Ndemu thrived under the watchful eye of its ancient guardian, the Whispering Baobab. Towering above the huts, its gnarled branches stretched toward the heavens, its roots entwined with the very soul of the land. The elders spoke of a time when the first ancestors planted it, sealing their wisdom within its bark. They said if one listened closely, the tree would whisper secrets of the past. Some believed, others doubted, but one thing remained certain. As long as the baobab stood, the village's history would never be forgotten. On the night Kwame was born, a warm breeze rustled the leaves of the Whispering Baobab, carrying a melody only the wind could compose. The elders took it as a sign. This child was special. His grandmother, Nana Ya, held him close and whispered, "This one will hear what others cannot." As he grew, Kwame would sit beneath the great tree, his small hands pressed against its ancient bark. While other children played, he listened. He heard faint murmurs, voices long past yet ever present. But when he spoke of them, the villagers only smiled, for they did not believe. For generations, the people of Ndemu thrived under the guidance of the Whispering Baobab's wisdom, seeking counsel in its shade. But as time passed, a divide grew. The elders and storytellers clung to tradition, believing the tree held the spirit of the ancestors. Others, led by Chief Jabari, saw only an obstacle, a towering relic standing in the way of progress. "Stories do not fill empty stomachs," Jabari scoffed. "Gold builds kingdoms, not whispers from dead men." Some nodded in agreement. Others cast worried glances at the great tree. Could wisdom truly be sacrificed for wealth? Kwame listened, heart heavy. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Kwame sat beneath the Whispering Baobab, tracing its rough bark with his fingers. Then he heard it, a voice, deep and ancient, carried by the wind. "When the roots are severed, the people will forget." His heart pounded. He ran to the village square, breathless. "The tree has spoken. If it falls, we will lose more than wood. We will lose ourselves." Laughter erupted. Chief Jabari smirked. "Trees do not speak, boy." But Kwame knew the truth. The baobab had warned him, and soon the village would see why. That night, as the fire crackled, Nana Ya stood before the villagers. Her voice, steady as the wind, carried an old truth. Long ago, when our ancestors first walked this land, they planted the baobab, not for shade nor for fruit, but to hold their wisdom, so that even in death their voices would guide us. The villagers listened in silence. Without roots, a tree withers. Without history, a people are lost. She looked at Jabari. You seek riches, but will you trade your past for gold? Kwame sat still. He already knew the answer. Deep in his hut, Chief Jabari paced, eyes gleaming with ambition. He had heard enough of old stories and whispers of the dead. To him, the baobab was not a sacred relic. It was prime land for his grand palace. At dawn, we cut it down, he ordered his most loyal men. Let the elders weep, let the boy dream. Gold will rule this village, not ghosts. Outside, Kwame and his friends, Amina and Kofi, crouched in the shadows, listening. We must stop them, Kwame whispered. His hands trembled. The baobab's warning was beginning to unfold. That night, as the village slept, a deep, mournful groan echoed through the wind. The baobab trembled, its ancient bark cracking like thunder. Every villager shared the same dream, and Demu lay barren, its lands dry, its people lost. The elders stood in silence, their wisdom forgotten. The village was rich in gold, but empty of soul. Kwame awoke, sweat dripping. He ran to Nana Ya. The tree is crying. It knows what's coming. The next morning, the villagers murmured, unsettled. Had they truly seen the future? Chief Jabari only scoffed. Dreams are nothing but foolish tales. As dawn broke, the village elders gathered beneath the whispering baobab, their faces grave. Baba Tunji, the oldest among them, raised his staff. Before a king takes what is not his, he must prove his wisdom. His voice was steady. Chief Jabari, answer 3 questions. If you fail, the baobab stands. The villagers whispered. A test from the ancestors? Even Jabari hesitated. And if I win? He smirked. Then the tree is yours. The wind stirred the baobab's leaves, as if listening. A battle was about to begin, not of swords, but of wisdom. The crowd fell silent as Baba Tunji fixed his gaze on Chief Jabari. Tell me, what is stronger than a warrior? Jabari smirked, confidence oozing from his stance. A sword, he declared. With a sharp blade, a warrior conquers all. The elders shook their heads. The baobab's leaves whispered in the wind. Baba Tunji's voice rang clear. No, wisdom is stronger. A sword may cut flesh, but wisdom cuts through time. A wise man needs no blade to win his battles. The villagers nodded. Jabari clenched his fists. 1 question down. 2 remained. Chief Jabari's jaw tightened. This was a trick, surely. He straightened his shoulders and scoffed. Diamonds, jewels, wealth builds kingdoms. The baobab's branches shuddered, its whispers swirling through the wind. Babatunji's eyes gleamed. No, Chief. Gold may buy land, but it cannot buy the past. The most precious thing is the stories of our ancestors, for without them, we are nothing. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kwame held his breath. Jabari's smirk faded. 2 questions failed. Only one remained. The baobab stood firm, its voice rustling like distant laughter. The test was not over yet. A hush fell over the village. Chief Jabari's confidence wavered. He clenched his fists. Land, wealth, power. Babatunji sighed, shaking his head. The whispering baobab's leaves trembled, as if disappointed. Kwame stepped forward, his voice steady. Time, he said. Once it is gone, it never returns. The elders nodded in approval. Babatunji smiled. A man may regain riches, but time, once wasted, is lost forever. Defeated, Jabari lowered his gaze. The baobab still stood, its wisdom proven. The villagers cheered. Their history, their roots, had been saved. But one question remained. Had Jabari learned? The weight of defeat settled over Chief Jabari like a heavy cloak. His dreams of wealth crumbled beneath the wisdom of the ancestors. He turned to the baobab, its ancient bark glowing under the morning sun. I was blind, he admitted, voice low. I sought riches, but I nearly robbed my people of something greater, our past. The elders watched in silence. Would he truly change? Then Jabari knelt before Babatunji. Teach me, he whispered. Let me learn what I almost destroyed. The baobab's leaves rustled in approval. Perhaps even the misguided could find their way back. As the morning breeze danced through the village, Kwame felt the baobab's presence stronger than ever. He stepped forward, pressing his palm against its rough bark. A warmth spread through him, a whisper curling in his ear. You listened when others would not. You are now the keeper of stories. The villagers gasped as the baobab bore golden fruit, a sign of the ancestors' blessing. Nana Ya smiled proudly. Babatunji placed a hand on Kwame's shoulder. Today you become more than a boy. You become a guardian of wisdom. Kwame stood tall. His journey had just begun. That night, the village of Ndemu rejoiced. Drums echoed through the air. Feet pounded the earth in dance, and laughter filled the sky. The elders declared it Wisdom Day, a celebration to honor the past and protect the future. Under the whispering baobab, Kwame sat beside Nana Ya as children gathered around. Tell us a story, they pleaded. Kwame smiled, his voice steady. This is the tale of a tree that speaks, and a village that finally listened. The baobab's leaves rustled in approval, and, as the fire flickered, a new storyteller was born. The legacy would live on. As the embers of the village fire glowed softly, a gentle breeze stirred the baobab's branches. Kwame closed his eyes and listened. The whispers were clearer now, stronger. As long as stories are told, we shall never be forgotten. He looked around at the dancing villagers, the wise elders, the children eager for knowledge. The baobab had spoken not just to him, but to them all. Rising to his feet, Kwame placed his hand on the tree's bark. We will never forget. The leaves rustled once more. The past was safe. The future was listening. The griot strummed his kora, his voice low and steady. And so, my children, the whispering baobab stood, not because of its roots, but because of those who chose to listen. The fire crackled as the listeners sat in silence, the weight of the story settling in their hearts. The griot smiled. Tell me, if you had a tree that whispered, what wisdom do you think it would share? The children whispered among themselves. The elders nodded knowingly. The griot rose, tapping his staff against the ground. Remember, wisdom never dies, so long as there are ears to hear. The flames flickered as the griot's voice softened. What have we learned from the whispering baobab? He asked, eyes scanning the crowd. Baba Tunji spoke first, that wisdom is greater than strength. Nanaya nodded, that gold fades, but knowledge lasts forever. Kwame smiled, that stories are the roots of our people, and without them we are lost. The griot tapped his staff. Yes, my children, the past speaks, but only those willing to listen will hear. The baobab's leaves rustled in agreement, as if whispering, remember, and teach the ones who come after you. Now I ask you, if a tree could whisper its wisdom to you, what do you think it would say? The whispering baobab has shared its story. Now it is yours to carry forward.